All right, good evening. Wow, I'm getting some kind of weird blurriness going on. I don't know what happened there. It was straight before. Anyway, welcome everybody to episode 95 of the Fuel Pod, where we will be discussing Miami tonight. That's got to get worked out. What's going on there?
You had too many filters.
I have no filters
Let,
on.
let that zit shine, man.
And oh, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. Show must go on. So we're talking Miami tonight. We also are talking tons of F1 news this week, and it's actually more than it's almost incomprehensible that you can even figure out everything that's going on. And obviously, some of the stuff we're going to be talking is just going to be complete supposition on our part because we don't know the facts. But it should be fun going over it. The first, of course, which is that I would like to cover tonight, is that Alonso was in the news a lot this week, as far as F1 news, mainly because not who he is or what he is, his longevity. And saw a lot of articles on drivers that went way, well late into their careers, and now he's the single oldest driver, I guess, to race, or at least in the modern era. He just signed a new contract with Aston Martin, and he flat out said this is probably his last F1 contract. So we do know he's going to be here at least, hopefully, for the duration for the rest of his career. But there it is. Camera fixed itself. But what do you guys think about what Alonso's been able to accomplish, at 42, 43 years old?
Every race, man, I enjoy more than the one before. Just watching him race and how smart of lines he takes, and just everything I learn about him and read about him and how long his career has been and how expansive the library is of the vehicles that he's raced.
Yeah,
is crazy. You go, who's the greatest driver of all time? He's up there 1A, 1B.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're not just going to single it out to Formula One for sure. And I think what he gives back to the sport, and I'm always a fan of people that give back to the sport outside of the sport itself. He owns his own karting place in Spain, where he teaches young people how to kart and get them going. Get them going in the career. Now, since then, other drivers have followed in his steps. Carlos Sainz, who's probably the biggest Alonso fan on the planet, even bigger than me, has started his own karting school. Lando's got his own karting school. So that's part of it too. I think just being able to give back and what he offers to Aston Martin. They're not just getting a driver; they're getting a driver with a ridiculous amount of experience that knows everything a car can and can't do. I love hearing him on the radio. Type. Yeah, you're actually absolutely right.
Player manager.
But I love it when he corrects his own race engineers who are supposed to be the experts. But I remember one time he was slowing down and the field was bunching up behind him, and they told him, like, "Hey man, you got to pick the pace up. These guys are all over you." And he's like, "I know what I'm doing. I'm backing them up on purpose." So he knows how to get more life out of a tire. He knows. Does he still make mistakes? Yes, he absolutely makes mistakes every now and then, head scratchers. And I think sometimes he thinks he's still 20 and he makes those kind of mistakes. But I think those are things we would all do, and I think everything he does is in service to him trying to get up to the front and win a race. That was a fantastic move at the beginning of China last week, where he almost, of course, in a Fast and Furious quote here, he almost had him. And he almost had, and I'm talking about Max. He definitely got Checo. But there for a second, he was wheel to wheel with Max for a second. And then, of course, he knew he was just, melting tire by trying to keep Checo behind him. So, anyway. So that was one of my big takeaways this week, just getting to read Formula One news. But the other one, and this is going to be a big one, we might be on this one for a bit, is Nico Hülkenberg is going to Sauber next year. Now, people were like, well, Nico's never been on the podium. In fact, he holds the record for the longest career never having been on a podium. It's obviously that's a dubious record to have.
And then he goes to Sauber.
I really like Nico Hülkenberg, but he's had a tough go at it. He's a great driver who's always been in a shitty car. So he's going to Sauber. And to me, and I don't know what you guys think, and I'm going to explain why I think this, but this is bigger news. This is probably the biggest news for the driver market this week. And I'll get into it after I get your all's 2 cents. So without further ado, what do you guys think of Nico leaving Haas? Was it a smart move?
So, yeah, it's a great move. It was one of Audi's targets.
Yeah.
Whose stake will be going to Audi. And
I
think he's a great number 2 if they get their number 1 target.
And he's German.
He's a very responsible driver.
Yeah.
He doesn't do stupid things. He knows
he can be aggressive. Not K-Mag aggressive.
Which is a good thing. He's a good aggressive.
It seems he's responsible is the word that I would use. He knows.
Yeah, and him and K-Mag are dads now, and I think you can see that in their driving versus before they became fathers. And they were just driving around like their pants were on fire. K-Mag even said one time, if I die, I die out there. I'm not going to be afraid of that when I'm driving. And I was like, yeah, man, you obviously do not have kids.
Yeah, but now he does have a kid and he can't drive like that anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a great move for Hülkenberg, I think.
Yeah.
But what does that do? What does that do to Joe or
I hope he can prove what kind of driver he is in this car. I have.
Before we get to Joe Valtteri, that argument, I want to say this too. I think it's an excellent move for Hülkenberg because it basically is going to give him a free pass year. Because Sauber next year is the last year that they're Sauber before they go Audi. So he could come in last place every race next year, and he's still got a free pass because they're going to say, well, we didn't care about this car because we're going to be switching it to Audi next year anyway. So I think it gives him a free pass year. To broach the subject of do you get rid of Joe or you get rid of Valtteri, I think the obvious answer, and it's sad because I like this kid, but I think the answer is Joe Guanyu. And I'm going to tell you why. I think Valtteri race in, race out has shown better racecraft than Joe this year already. I think he brings more to the table off or outside of the car in advertising and just personality in general. And he brings attention, he sucks in attention for that team, a team that by and large doesn't deserve it. So who leaves the Kick Sauber Stake Romeo F1 Alpha team? I think I put every single one of their possible names in there. I think it's going to be Joe. Mikey, who do you think?
Yeah, I would say Joe, but I think it's going to be both of them. I think Audi has everybody knows that Audi has their number 1 target, and I'm sure they have a handful of others. Yeah, and I bet Valtteri or Joe, either one, is on that target list for Audi.
Okay, well, we obviously know that Carlos Sainz is on the. In fact, he's actually already signed a contract with Audi, but now Audi's probably flaking on whether or not he's going to take it. And we can talk about that too when we get to it. But here's the other piece, and it's the piece we don't really think about. Hülkenberg's leaving Haas, and that leaves that seat open.
Are we doing this again?
That is a Scuderia Ferrari power plant in that car. And you know who one of Scuderia Ferrari's reserve drivers is? Mr. I'm not going to say Mr. because I don't even think he has any facial stubble. We're just going to say that kid, Ollie Bierman. And I think Ollie Bierman's a shoe-in for the other seat at Haas.
Absolutely.
He gets to come in, and K-Mag's there. So he's got some experience in K-Mag, although I think he's going to be one of those guys that doesn't listen to K-Mag very much.
It's going to be like Max Verstappen at the beginning when he was racing with Danny Rick. I feel like that's what it's going to be like.
It's going to be Jimmy Bland, Sylvester Stallone, and Driven is what it's going to be. But yeah,
I think he'll get that seat, and like you said, he won't be listening to K-Mag.
Yeah,
but he won't have to. He will be listening to Scuderia Ferrari.
Yeah,
I'm sure they will be very hands-on with him.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Fred will take a direct interest, more so than now with Haas if it's Ollie Bierman. So the other piece you got to look at is Liam Lawson. If he can't find a seat, does he go to Haas? I know he probably doesn't want to. If I had to guess,
I don't think he will if he was offered it. To be honest with you,
I mean, technically though, right now he's at Scuderia AlphaTauri.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, Scuderia
V-Carb,
Visa, Cash App, RB, and stuff.
Hey, I'll say this about Liam Lawson. Looking at him, looking at his face and his demeanor, he screams Mercedes.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that. Absolutely. I don't disagree. I think he screams Aston Martin too, at least in that second seat, because Lord knows the person in that second seat doesn't deserve to be there. But here we are. So anyway, yeah. So Bierman to Haas. I think Joe's gone. You think both of them are gone?
I think Bottas is gone.
Okay, you think okay. So we've got all three options here on the table, and all three of us taking a different one. So that's kind of cool. So
it's a first.
Two of us are going to be wrong here in the next few weeks. So I'm gonna go ahead and get an egg ready so I can slap that on my face if it's me. But here we are. And speaking of faces, let's talk about Lando's face. So Lando, like young kids do, decided to party and flex out that he's a cool F1 driver this weekend. And I'm not crawling into the gossip and the junk.
That second place really hit him right in the heart.
I was a young guy before getting drunk, standing on the hood of a car and falling off the bust in my face. I know what that's like, but I didn't have to wake up the next morning and be on the cover of a magazine. So not that I would have been even before busting the face, but he's now got a cut across his nose. I haven't seen it yet. All I saw is his face bandaged up. He looked like Liam Neeson in Darkman, or Chevy Chase in the Invisible Man, or what was the one with Kevin Bacon that was really good? Elizabeth Shue and Kevin Bacon. Hollow Man? What was that?
Hollow Man.
Yes. Great movie.
Yeah.
Also had Thanos in it. What's his name? Brolin. But anyway, yeah, it looked worse than it was, I'm sure. So it'll be anxious to see if he crushed up his Backstreet Boys face when he shows up here in Miami.
That's gross.
So
I don't know how y'all think that's a good movie. That looks disgusting.
What movie?
Hollow Man.
Dude, watch that movie.
It's like they plastered over a mannequin and then just took it off.
Instead of being funny, it explores what people would probably actually be like if they were invisible.
Yeah.
So it's very, very good. It's not what you think. But anyway,
psychological thriller.
And speaking of movie, man, I've had two good segues in a row right here. We had the face to face, and now we're segueing from the movie Hollow Man to the movie Logan's Run, because this weekend is Logan's last run. Yeah. So apparently, word on the street, and this is complete scuttlebutt, and I only have two sources that I would even deem remotely accredited, which is Planet F1 and Motorsports.com, I think, talking about if
I know Dan down at the liquor store. That's what he said.
And there's a dude down at the liquor store sucking on Johnny Bootleggers, talking about this is Logan's last race this weekend. So I think it sucks they're going to let him run his home race and then kick him off. But, at least they're not doing it before.
At least he lasted this long. Props to him.
Yeah. It's sad because he's still in the top 0.5% of all racing car drivers. What's that?
You remember what I predicted? That
I don't.
He was going to crash.
And even if I do,
step out of his car and just walk out in through the crowd, just walk into the sunset.
Yeah.
He'll be home. He's closer. He can do it this weekend.
Yeah. You can just take off. Because, Miami is a weird place. And we're going to talk about
a weird track,
a bit,
for sure.
but I don't like Miami. I know that sucks as an American.
I like Miami.
Anxious to have races over here, if for anything else other than I get to sleep in.
True.
Because we can watch it at normal hour. So that part of it's cool. But anyway, we'll get to that in a second. So another big long stretch of well, real quick, do you guys think, Logan, this is the time to do it?
I think 5 races ago was the time, but I mean,
End of last year.
Yeah.
Who steps in immediately?
Yeah.
Who wants to step into that Williams car, though?
Well, they can't just have one racer. You can't have one driver.
I think that's when you move.
Yeah, they can.
I think they've had one driver for 2
Williams
years.
can.
You know who else has had one driver for 2 years?
They can start a race with one car.
So, yeah, just move Lance Stroll over to Williams. Alex Albon won't even know the difference.
No, you won't.
Yeah. So
what if they take
that
kid? What if they take that kid that Danny replaced last season?
Liam Lawson?
No, Nick DeVries.
Yes.
Oh, the 47th chromosome.
That still wouldn't be a difference.
He's in World Endurance right now.
Oh,
yeah, is he? He's driving the 3 for.
Although to be fair, the only time he did good in an F1 car was in the Williams at Monza. I think he came in like 8th or something. It's crazy. And then after that, he was never able to drive again. So, man, I don't know. There's, and then you got the guy that's on Mercedes' bench, Antonelli or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
That's another like Ollie Beerman clone. So they could bring him in. They could get David Coulthard out of the broadcasting booth and probably put him in the car. He'd probably do a lot better. So, or Jenson Button or any of those guys. But anyway, yeah. So he's gone this weekend. But speaking of Mercedes power plants and not Williams, huge news the past couple of days that Max Verstappen is having a secret meeting that's obviously not secret with Mercedes after the Miami Grand Prix. And that might be going to Mercedes along with his dad, who I don't get that because his dad was never actually on any of the teams.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody else, and then possibly Helmut Marko leaving Red Bull to go there.
Newey.
We're not going to talk about Newey yet, but let's just talk about Merc, or let's talk about Max and possible move to Mercedes and what that looks like. So Max goes to Mercedes. We know Lewis is leaving, so that'd be Max and George, which I think will tune George's whinging up to 11 if Max is on the team. Because every time he gets close to Max, he's going to think he should be able to go past him.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you guys think about it, but
George will explode.
I cannot grasp Max Verstappen in a Mercedes. I can't do it. I try as I might. It'd be almost like if Ferrari painted their car blue. That's how much I can't understand Max going to Mercedes. I mean, that's like a non-red Ferrari. I swear to God. Not that would ever happen, ever. But yes, I do think he might actually go. I think he's done with the whole Horner camp.
I think everybody's running away from Horner.
Oh, see, I took a different angle. I feel like because there was always 2 camps. There was the Horner stay in England camp, and there was the Helmet, let's move to Austria camp. And I think Horner won.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he won. If Max is willing to leave and Helmet's willing to leave, although why you hire a 76-year-old man is beyond me to be like any kind of racing or sporting director. But it does get them closer to home where they want to be, even though Mercedes is still headquartered in England. But yeah, so I don't know, which obviously segues us right into Adrian Newey. So technically, Adrian Newey is on contract with Red Bull through the end of 2025. So whoever does get him is going to have to pay out the rest of his contract. obviously you got three major candidates with a fourth, I think, just throwing in there as a spoiler. But you've got.
Hang on just a second. Isn't there a year of non-compete, which I think they call it a gardening leave, which I love that term.
Yeah, I didn't read that. I didn't see where he had
Yeah.
gardening leave on that contract.
Yeah.
Well, they'll figure out a
gardening
workaround.
leave.
There's no way they're going to leave him
Oh,
out
yeah.
for a year. So obviously they'll figure a workaround. But his big choice, simply because that's what he wants, he said he would always consider a regret if he never got to work at Ferrari. A career regret. And career regrets are bigger when you're older, and he's older. So, you know, I definitely think Ferrari is his front runner. If you're,
I want to ask you this, though.
Okay.
You said before, and everybody knows Ferrari kind of does their own thing. They don't copy this and that.
Fair.
How will having somebody like that come in and say, no, we got to do it like this?
Well, I think that's part of the deal. If they get Adrian Newey, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. And I don't think Fred. I think Fred respects, and I mean, really respects Ferrari tradition without buying into it lock, stock, and barrel. Because one of his big downsides when they hired him was that everybody, like the citizens in the town of Maranello, didn't want him because he's not Italian.
Yep.
And I think he's proved them wrong. He's done more than
absolutely
Binotto did in the past, you know, whatever years. And Fred's a businessman, you know. Give him his spreadsheet and his little espresso of coffee and a pencil, and he's gonna do things that are good. And I think if he brings Newey in, I think Newey's gonna upset the apple cart, as it were, a little bit with car design and whatnot. I still don't think they're going to copy anybody.
No.
Are people going to copy them? Will they be the new thing that people copy? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, McLaren's been copying Ferrari since 1950. So, I mean, those two have been rivals forever, and I don't want to say directly copying, but they've always been right there neck and neck. So, Merc would probably be the choice that a lot of people want to see as far as where Newey goes, especially if Max goes there. Because then it keeps Newey and Max. And that would also be, I would think, appealing to Newey to be able to continue his work with a driver that he already knows. That's tried and true. Your other choice is Aston Martin, which is going to be the money, what I call the money choice, because Lawrence Stroll apparently offered him the keys to the castle a couple of weeks ago.
You still have Lance there, though.
You still got Lance there.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter what he comes up with.
And I'm sure Lance is going to Big Papa Stroll and going, Daddy, with an Adrian Newey car, I can be good again.
No, you can.
And at that point, that's when you look at him and go, son, here's the deal, though. You have to had been good the first time. And we still have not seen that. So I'm just spitballing here, but I'm pretty sure you're out.
And their car isn't bad right now at all.
That's the shitty thing about it. They've got a great car. They've got a competitive car. But you can't come in P2 in constructors when you only have one driver. Their best option right now is Alonso being on the podium or close to it every race just to get P3. And that doesn't guarantee him P3 either. So because you got McLaren knocking on their back door as well, and Mercedes. Yeah. And then last but not least, apparently McLaren threw their hat in the ring for Adrian Newey. They can't offer Aston Martin money. And I don't think they really have anything to offer him other than we would like you to come here.
They've also got Mercedes in front of them.
Yeah. So I think it's really down to Ferrari, Mercedes, and Aston Martin. But I'm putting my hat into the Ferrari.
But if he wants to do something real wild, and you said it last week, Audi will spend the money.
Audi would be sweet for that'd be cool.
Yeah, but you're going to a team where you don't know who your drivers are going to be. You know one of them,
Nico.
Yeah. So I think part of Newey's deal is not only being able to get in there and design a car and have the freedom to design that car, but having drivers that can drive it, which is what has helped make Max so great. I mean, he's built that car directly around Max's driving style. It does exactly what he wants it to do when he wants to do it. So, except at Singapore, where was the only track he was beat last year by Carlos Sainz. You almost made it, Mikey. But
27-10.
So, that race, and I think personally that was mostly Max and not the car, but they obviously had some car issues there. And it turned out that that wasn't their race, and Carlos Sainz beat them in that race to be the only driver to beat Red Bull last year. So, anyway, I've now said that twice. Went for the double banger tonight. Sweet.
You can skip next episode. That's what that means.
Yeah. So anyway, do you guys have anything more to add on Max going to Mercedes?
No, wait and see.
It's gonna be weird if he goes to Mercedes.
It will. It'll be weird seeing him in that car. So
it's like it's gonna be weird seeing Hamilton in a Ferrari.
Where does George Russell go? He can't.
He stays at Mercedes.
He can't stay there.
He's staying there. He wants to be the number one driver. He's hoping Max doesn't come there, and that they bring in probably Antonelli or somebody else that's not as good as Russell.
That way, Russell can be number one.
Yes. I mean, he's probably licking his lips with no shirt on in his hotel at night, hoping to God that's what happens.
Yeah, he's probably really excited that Hamilton's leaving.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. It's time for the old man to go and let the young guy step in. That's what he's thinking. I guarantee it.
Here's the thing, though, is Hamilton's going to fight for that 8th.
So Christian Horner was cornered this week on Daniel Ricciardo, asking about Danny's future, of course. And if it was Mikey, I mean, I'm sure he'd be like, hey, it's time for him to go already. But Christian Horner said, hey, it's early days. And he hasn't ever really got a chance to get going. And that's Horner, who's traditionally hard on drivers, saying that. Now, does he have a soft spot for Danny? Sure. Of course he does. But then a reporter asked him a more pointed question and said, what about the second Red Bull seat? And that's when Christian became Christian again and said, we would need to see head-turning form for him to be considered for that other Red Bull seat. Also, we would have to see interest from other teams before we would see in Danny, before we would consider putting him in the other Red Bull seat. So we go into Miami this weekend, and he's got a 3-grid penalty for that stupid timing line incident with Hülkenberg last week, after he got ass-ended by ADHD Stroll, and he really just did not have a good shot last week. And it sucks because he had out-qualified and outran Yuki.
He was doing stupid good.
Yes, he was doing stupid good. At one point, he was in P7 legitimately. And that sucks because that would have been the highest finish for AlphaTauri this year, for a V-Carb car this year. But anyway, that all went to shit, and now he's got a 3-place grid penalty. So he needs solid qualifying this weekend because you want to be in the front half at Miami. So let's go ahead and move into some Miami coverage.
I want to ask you something about Danny Ricciardo real fast.
Okay.
See if I can't piss you off.
Well, you just said, I want to ask you something about Danny Ricciardo. You succeeded already.
No. Every week, Christian Horner said he hadn't really got a chance to get going yet. No, he hasn't. Week after week, it's something out of the ordinary that sets him back. Is this bad luck? Because, sometimes it's like you make your own luck, right?
Yeah.
And if it's constantly having bad luck, what is it? What is it?
Well, I mean, the first part was
be on a streak this long.
He broke his hand for 5 weeks.
There's always something. There's always something. There's always some bad luck.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's really unfortunate, man. I don't know how to answer that question, Mikey, and I'll tell you. what sucks about it is, when you never get a chance to build any kind of momentum, when it feels like your legs are constantly being chopped out from under you, the comeback from that is always going to be more difficult every time, because it's going to be like, I guarantee you, if he works his way through this, then it's going to be like, okay, what's going to happen now? Right? I mean, you're always going to have that on your shoulder. What's going to happen next? So he already goes into this week and he already knows what's happened next. He's got a 3 grid penalty going into this weekend.
I really want to see him do good.
Yeah.
I want to see all of them do good. But it just seems like every week there's something holding him back. And is it something that he needs to work on mentally? Is he always expecting, here's the bad thing's going to happen? When is it?
Well, I mean, you look at last week, and like I said, he was running very well.
Yeah.
And Yuki couldn't even get. I mean, Yuki had a shit weekend.
Yeah.
And I think part of that was Danny was in Yuki's head. I think that was legitimately. He's like, why is he up there and I'm not? And I think he kept thinking about that instead of thinking about driving his race car. And here's Danny doing great, and then you got Lance Stroll driving directly up your ass. In a 4-car pileup, everybody's checked down, and he just drives directly up his ass. Then he comes around and get in the pits to try to get competitive again, and his team screws him over, because it's the team that needs to tell you when you start cross that timing line, because he's on the other side of the wall and can't see. So they're the ones that are supposed to tell him, hey, back it off or speed it up or back it off, so that he crosses that line with proper timing. So they screwed him over there. And it just sucks. And that's the one thing I think Christian actually looks at, is how many factors were your responsibility and how many factors were just acts of God, right? And, I think if the acts of God outweigh his own responsibility as a driver, then I think he's at least safe for another week in the car. And here's the funny thing. With a 3 grid penalty this week, all he's got to do is make up 3 or 4 spots, and it'll look like a success story. Because they'll be like, man, he started out, let's say he qualifies 9th, because that's not out of the realm of possibility. He'll start 13th. If he can get in the points from starting 13th after a grid penalty, it'll look like a hero's journey. You know what I mean? So even if he can get back to 9th, that'll be fine. But
until a Pelican crashes into him.
So if out of the blue, if Danny Rick quals 3rd and goes to 6th, that'll put him right where where his race ended last weekend.
Well, if he goes out and he qualifies 3rd, and that's not going to happen, but
it's not. But I mean,
if he qualified 3rd, then he's good for the weekend.
Yeah,
they're not going to see any trash talking him of it. Now, if he qualifies 3rd, starts 6th with his grid penalty, and finishes 17th, we'll be right back here talking about this same. Mike will be bringing, and rightly so, he should.
Yeah,
right back talking about this shit next week.
We've been talking about it for 4 weeks. We've been talking about Danny Rick and his downfall for 4 weeks.
But let's talk about Miami and how this is not the track to have a comeback story on. This is why I hate this track. It's if you're trying to have call it a comeback, this is not the track to do it on. So it has a super short run down to turn 1, which I always hate when tracks have those. You look at tracks that have a great start-finish line. Bahrain does. You got a long run down to that almost hairpin turn 1.
Yeah.
At Bahrain. Look at Red Bull Ring. You got to shoot. You got a long straight down to that uphill to turn 1, and then another long straight up to turn 3, with only a slight little variation in it. But you look at Miami's circuit map.
There's not a lot of straights in Miami.
Well, they have one of the longest ones in all of F1 when
From
they
16
come around.
to 17, yeah,
16 to 17. But coming out of turn 19, so they're already turn 17 is a super slow turn at the end of that straight.
Yeah.
So you don't even have your speed built all the way up by the time you're in 18 or 19. So you're already slower going past start finish, and then you've only got a small little run down to turn 1. So first off, we've got turn 1 on lap 1. That's going to be a possible shit show point. then if you look at where am I going here? 2, 3. You look at 6, 7, and 8. That's where Lando and Gasly got into it the first year of Miami.
Yeah.
But even turn 1, 2, and 3 is kind of a mess coming out of turn 1.
Yeah.
And then 11, 12, 13, especially 14, 15, because you're going under the overpass.
That's gonna be Danny's hot spot
Miami.
right there. He's gonna dive bomb.
And that's if Danny's in a spot, that's where he's going to dive bomb and take him out. That's also where K-Mag's just going to run people into the wall.
And Lance.
And Yuki. Yeah.
And Yuki.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's going to be a wad right there.
I'm calling 4-5 DNFs at the end of this race.
And that's very possible.
I called it last year. It was like 6 or 7.
But here's another thing. It's a sprint weekend. So they only get one practice.
Mm-hmm.
The very next session is sprint qualifying after practice. And then they got to run the sprint. Now, the sprint is going to help from the aspect of they're going to get basically a preview of what racing there is going to be like.
Do you get points from sprints?
You do. You can get up to 8 points.
Okay.
But you also burn up tires.
But you're also burning up tires.
Yeah.
But again, you're getting to see because, in practice and qualifying, you're not getting to see what race trim looks like.
Yeah.
What it's like to race with everybody. But sprint's going to give them a small preview of that. So they will get to see that piece of it. So in a lot of ways, a sprint is a little bit like an extra practice a practice session, but with racing.
Yeah.
And points involved. Also, they're going to be running lower fuel, I'm sure, because they're only doing whatever it is. I don't know how many laps their sprint is there.
It's probably like 15, or is that too high?
No idea.
I can look
how many that one is, but if you want to look it up for me. But
I got you.
What are you looking for?
How many laps is the sprint race?
The sprint race at Miami. The regular race is 57 laps.
Yeah.
Which is also very long, by the way, considering that a lap time is 1:30.
That's a good damn question. I don't know.
And you're talking about at least 3.6, 3.7 miles.
19 laps.
Okay, so 19 laps.
30-minute race, yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. As far as predictions this weekend for me, and this is a weird one because it's one of those things. If Max gets out in front of everybody, gets pole, gets out in clean air quick, then he's going to run away with this thing. And when I say run away with this thing, this will be one. Last year he won this thing by 26 or 27 seconds.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So it'll be similar this year. I don't think that'll change. I think you're going to see Checo, Sainz, and Alonso in that P2 mix, but all they're going to do is allow Max Verstappen to increase the gap.
Yeah, Checo's going to fight right out the gate for P2, and then you just got to hold it for laps.
I could potentially see Charles getting pole here. He likes racing here for some ungodly reason.
I think Alonso or Sainz. Lando, well,
I don't know how good their car is going to be here, but
as long as his face is straight.
They're bringing a huge upgrade package, so
and that could
whether or not they get it dialed in. Yeah.
No, they got to practice a sprint qual and then a sprint.
I don't know if I'd bring a big upgrade package
to Miami.
Yeah,
that's weird. It's definitely a weird track to bring it to, but I mean,
I'd want to bring it at a track that you got some dependability on. Red Bull Ring, Monza, Silverstone, tracks you run a lot. But
what's our next race?
The next one after Miami is Imola, which got canceled last year because of torrential rains and flooding. And then I remember that. So after this weekend, we got 2 weeks until Imola, and then the following weekend after Imola is Monaco.
That's gonna be a great race. I can't wait for Monaco.
I can't wait for the spectacle of Monaco, but qualifying is the fun thing to watch there.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're on the edge of your seat during qualifying there. But and Miami's all spectacle to me and no race. But here we are.
Hey, before you move past Miami, I want to put a plug in for F1 Academy this weekend.
Oh, okay.
So there will be the support race for the F1 guys. And I encourage any of you listeners out there, just give it a chance, man. Give it a watch. These girls can really race. They're really entertaining too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just like I said, I encourage everybody to give it a watch this weekend.
Yeah, and I think as we move forward, towards the net zero of 2026 or whatever, I think F1 Academy is going to play a bigger role in that. Even Formula E with the hybrids, because I still don't think we're probably not going to have Formula E after the F1 cars go full hybrid or full electric. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, do they have a race this weekend at Miami? Yeah. I'm sure they do.
Yeah,
they did last year. I remember that last year. And of course, all the drivers have a great time when they're in Miami. They go to baseball games and do some golfing, and Charles and Carlos always hang out at Shell stations. But I'll tell you what, Mikey, I'm going to do it for you and say, let's go ahead and talk about Miami's livery package this weekend. And I'm going to start off with the good note. The drivers and the crew members are wearing the baby blue jumpsuits,
which look good.
And I've heard people talk trash on those, but that actually is historic. And I'll tell you why, because when Ferrari first got started in the racing, that's what color jumpsuits the crews wore, the drivers and the crews wore. So I'm a huge fan of it. Plus, I thought it looked great when Carlos and Charles were checking them out, and they had the garage shop shirts on. Charles looked funny in one of those. Carlos actually looked like he belonged in it, but it still was cool to see those old school baby blue. You remember, if you watch Ford versus Ferrari, that baby blue jumpsuit that Ken Miles wore, that Christian Bale wore the whole time. So it does give you a huge callback nostalgically to a different day for Ferrari. Now, that being said, as far as works teams Ferraris, they've always been red or possibly yellow or possibly a combination of red and yellow. But rarely, and I mean probably never,
people get sued for changing the color of their Ferrari. Literally.
Yes. Probably never do you see a works team Ferrari in blue. And they didn't go with the baby blue from the suits.
No.
They went with like a blue.
Like a
now, it's not that no Ferrari has been painted blue before, because if you watch endurance racing at all, some of the non-works teams there have a blue Ferrari that's still got some red in it. But I've seen a couple 488s in a blue livery. If you look at some of the super old Ferraris, that when they found that 54 Mondale a bunch of years ago in some guy's garage, it was blue. So I get it. But an F1 Ferrari needs to be Rosa Corsa or Rosa Monza. Those are your only two options of color, and you shall not deviate from that in any way, shape, or form. Plus, as a sports fan, I got to tell you, anytime a team changes their colors for one game, they lose. I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. And Notre Dame wears gold pants and navy blue jerseys with a gold helmet week in and week out. But one time, usually once a year, they wear a effing green jersey with gold numbers, and they put a shamrock on the helmet. You know what? They lose that fucking game by 30 points every year. You don't do it. You just don't do it.
No, and I totally agree with you on that.
What happens when the Celtics put on a black and green jersey?
And to quote Kevin Costner from Bull Durham, a player on a streak has to respect the streak. You don't mess with the streak. Eat a bowl of chicken wings before every game, then you need to keep eating a bowl of chicken wings before every game.
I'm looking at this blue Ferrari, and
I'm not.
It's not a bad looking car if it wasn't a Ferrari.
I'm going to do a little cardboard cutout on a stick for this weekend. Every time they show the Ferrari, I'm going to hold it over it.
It could be a Williams car. It's that
long.
Everything looks good until you get to the Ferrari name.
The logo
hurts your heart. Yeah,
that's the only thing wrong with the car is that it says Ferrari on it. Here's the other piece. Coming down that straight stretch, if they show the long distance view, You're not going to be able to tell the difference between that and an Alpine and a V carb and a Williams.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right.
You're not going to know. You're going to be like, who that shit is that?
Oh,
guy?
it's blue.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beyond awful. I don't even know what to tell you.
Wow.
Except I lost my mouse cursor and I can't find it. Oh, there it is. See, now you guys got me wanting to pull it up and just Ferrari Miami. Yeah, it was. I just typed in Ferrari MI and it says Ferrari Miami livery is my first choice.
Yeah, it's
wow, man.
I can tell it hurts you.
Yeah, I'm beyond hurt. I'll try to get that up there if you guys can hang out for a second. Let me see what I got. We're gonna save that to we'll save that there. And then I'm gonna go here to brand and get pictures. Oh, where did it go? Let's go up. Yep, there it is. I'm gonna get it in there so everybody can see what we're talking about. And I think his name's Alan. Chad's pastor friend is a huge Ferrari fan.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
Oh my God.
And yeah, if it just wasn't a Ferrari, that wouldn't be a bad looking car. It looks like an old AlphaTauri.
Yeah, but look at the shell and the Ferrari logo and the V power. Like it doesn't.
There's things about it I like. Okay, disregarding the
great
color.
looking race car.
It is a very good looking race car.
Disregarding the color, I love the American flag with the 70 in it. I love that. I think that looks great.
Oh yeah, I didn't even see that.
You know, at the very least, they could have went with the soft tire compound, so we could have had some red. I don't think the shell logo fits very well. I think they should have just stayed with the V-Power one that's on the
or change the color of it just for the race, something.
And you noticed on the side this side profile view, you don't see the word Ferrari. You have the Ferrari logo, but it doesn't say Ferrari anywhere.
I see a big HP right there in the middle.
I do see a big HP.
You didn't even bring that up.
Yeah.
That means horsepower.
Big time pickup for Scuderia Ferrari.
That means horsepower right there.
So anyway, that's the car for this week. Does anybody else have a livery this week?
A custom one? No. We do got we got a cool helmet coming back. Got the Panda. He's gonna rock it.
I've seen
Albin, right? He has the Panda. His new.
Oh yeah, he does have the Panda.
I know. Piastri has one I saw the other day, but
I saw it on
what it looks like.
Piastri got a TikTok now, and he posted a TikTok with his helmet on.
There's there's the jacket and the shop shirt, which I love that button down shop shirt, man.
Yeah. Leclerc doesn't look like he needs to be in one of those.
Yeah, they need to be flipped on that one.
Yeah, that shirt does look cool though. I mean,
yeah, I would totally bust that out. Let me see what else we got here. Whoops. Yeah, Red Bull's got one. It's like a Red Bull car with a pink stripe in it.
What?
The Red Bull livery from Miami. It's the same thing they did last year. They just had a pink stripe going down through the car.
Oh yeah.
And it looks like shit.
Which car is that?
Is McLaren going with the baby blue this year?
I don't know.
McLaren's got a blue?
I hope so because it is.
Yeah, but we're gonna have like 8 blue. We're gonna have a lot more than 8, but we're gonna have a lot of blue on this track.
Williams has got a weird looking car. I don't know if it's 2024, but there's a picture of a Williams car circulating around where it's sitting in a garage. What is this from? Yeah, McLaren's got a weird car, guys.
Williams does have a weird car. It's like it looks like somebody spray painted it.
Well, one of them did that. AlphaTauri did it that first year where Gasly and Yuki were still teammates. They actually took their helmets to get like airbrushed
That's what this
almost like a tie
Williams
dye.
car that I just found looks like.
So it
All
should
right.
be interesting. But guys, that's really all I got. I'm looking forward to some fantasy league this weekend. Seeing how everybody's going to do.
My whole team's different. I'm moving for points now. We're getting there. We're getting somewhere now. I'm getting into the game. I'm locked in. Good.
I have Hulkenberg still, and I'm hoping coming off the heels of this new contract, he shows out a little bit. And I've got Bottas too, so I'm hoping he wants to retain his seat, and he shows out a little bit.
You have Hulkenberg? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I have Hulkenberg and Bottas.
See, I have Lance, and I don't want him.
I'll get rid of him.
Well, I can't really. I have Fernando Alonso, Sainz, Ferrari, and Aston Martin.
Somehow my cost cap's at 1.1 million, so I still got that much to spend. I'm wondering if I can get rid of either Hulkenberg and Bottas and pick up a different person, because I would have 8.7.
Well, I have 6 mil
if I got rid of Hulkenberg. So
I have 6 mil in the bank right now.
But anyway, that's all we got time for tonight, guys. Folks, make sure you watch the race this weekend, 3:00 on Sunday. If you want to watch the sprint, I think it's 11 o'clock on Saturday, which is May the 4th.
It's 12 to 12:30 on Saturday.
Okay. On Star Wars Day. And yeah, no joke, right? So
be with you.
Enjoy the race. Hope your favorite drivers do their best and come in where you want them to. And next week, we'll obviously be talking about the results of this shit show. And hopefully we'll have some announcements on who's filling some empty spots as opposed to who's creating some empty spots.
Yeah, no kidding.
We need to start hearing some
fillers.
Who's filling some spots.
Yeah.
So, because if not, it's going to get super crazy by the time we get to Spa and summer break.
We'll see what comes out of Max's secret meeting with Mercedes for sure.
Yes. Yeah, we got to hear about the secret meeting.
That's crazy.
Anyway, guys, that's all I got. Thank you all. And tune in next week for episode 96.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good weekend.
Later.